Former Economy Minister Chris Cardona's alleged sexual escapades revealed in tell-all book. A waiter was forced by his employer to pay for a Paula cafe bill after the client dined and dashed, and the infamous Maxar brothers might have another ready-to-use bomb in Malta. All this and more on Lovin Daily. Good evening, Malta and Gozo. Welcome to another edition of Lovin Daily. This is Johnathan, Cilia. Today I'm joined by Yannick. I hope you had a great weekend and a great start to the week. We've got a great show for you today. We've got a special guest, Cassandra Mallia, in the house today from Volt Malta to talk to us about their platform, a new third party. But before that, we've got quite an explosive story to start off with. Yannick?
So former National Book Council Chairman Mark Camilleri has made some explosive allegations about former Economy Minister Chris Cardona in his new book, A Rent Seeker's Paradise, which hit the shelves last week. In the book, Camilleri makes a series of allegations about Cardona's supposed sex life, including fetishes Camilleri claimed he enjoyed, including having candle wax poured over his body and being whipped. Camilleri also claimed that Cardona had befriended owners of strip clubs he visited, some of whom were involved in importing African women to work in strip clubs. He claimed that some of these women had even previously been trafficked to Italy by the mafia and were engaged by semi-legal agencies providing women to the European sex industry. On his part, Cardona dismissed Camilleri's allegations and described him as mad. However, despite his denial, the former minister said he would not be filing defamation proceedings against the author because he did not have any time to waste on quote-unquote imbeciles. Cardona's his personal choices have been subject of public scrutiny in the past, most notably when Daphne Caruana Galizia had claimed that the minister had visited a brothel in Germany while on official government duty. What do you make of the book?
You know, from what I've seen of the book so far, it is literally an explosive tell-all as it was marketed. Mark Camilleri said that, this book was going to, kind of shake the foundations of Maltese politics, and judging from what we've already seen, this seems to be the case. So we reached out to Chris Cardona to see kind of what he makes of this. As Yannick said, he told us, quote, "This guy is mad," referring to Mark Camilleri. "He should wake up early, get a cold shower and run to a therapist. These are surely his sexual desires and surely never been or are mine. Tell him to stop using drugs, it will help him out." So very strong words from Chris Cardona, but to be expected with the very strong allegations against the minister. Now, obviously the image of the former minister in these sexual positions is quite a strange one, especially you refer back to Germany. He was there in Germany on official work, so you start wondering, if they're true, and if they are true, were they done on work time, in his private time, and if they were done in his private time, is it even a story at all? Let's be very clear though, Mark Camilleri described Chris Cardona as, quote, "the poster boy of the lavish and uncontrolled sexual indulgence of the Muscat era." So very, very, very strong visuals there. If you want to read the book yourself, it's actually out in stores. Prior to this, it had been only available online for 0.1 Ethereum, but you can actually buy it for about 15 euros, I think, from most Maltese bookstores. So if you are interested to find out more, as well as other revelations, do check out the book yourself. Moving on to the next story, another story that revolves around payments, actually. A Maltese waiter has taken to social media to complain about a situation he was thrown into because of a criminal client. So this young Maltese waiter who works in a cafe in Paola revealed that, one of the clients had come in, had a nice meal, and dined and dashed. That means they had left without paying for their meal. And the employer of the cafe of this student, actually, the waiter who's a young student, asked the waiter to pay for the bill, to cover the bill. So the waiter said, I had to work for 2 hours to pay the bill that this person should have paid for themselves. So let's be clear, dining and dashing is a pretty common thing that happens all around the world. countries approach it very differently. In America, you can actually be sentenced for up to 5 years in prison if you dine and dash when bills are over 300 euros. And what was interesting to me is that this story led to hundreds of comments online. I don't know if you saw it yourself, with people blaming the employee, people blaming the employer, people blaming the client. Some people said, moving forward, when the dish comes to the table, you should pay for it there on the spot. We should do away with bills. So quite an interesting story. I've worked as a waiter before in my younger days in restaurants. The name of the game is multitasking. You've got a million things on your mind. Who wants the ketchup? Who wants the bread? Who wants the well-done steak? The idea that you'd also have to watch out for tables to make sure they're not leaving without paying seems to be a bit of an extra job for waiters and waitresses.
Yeah, I mean, as a starting point, I suppose common decency is the priority. If you're going to have a meal, you pay for it. I guess I do understand employers wanting to have some form of disincentive or rather incentive for waiters to kind of make sure that people pay the bill. That being said, if it's clearly, if there was clearly nothing that could have been done on the part of the waiter, I think that, it should be forgiven, but who might see?
And yeah, guys, if you're watching this, don't dine and dash. It might seem cool, it might seem fun, you might have seen it in a movie. Don't do it. You're going to end up screwing over another worker.
Yeah, pretty much. On to our next story. Maltese investigators believe that the men who supplied the bomb that killed Daphne Caruana Galizia may have another explosive hidden on the island. So according to a report in the UK Sunday Times, real concerns exist within the police force that there could be another ready-to-use bomb hidden somewhere in Malta. Adrian and Robert Ajus, known as the Total Maksar brothers, together with their associate Jamie Vella, are understood to have purchased 3 bombs from Albania towards the beginning of 2017. One of these bombs was used in an attempt on Romeo Bone in February that year, with the second used to murder Daphne Caruana Galizia in October. According to the testimony in court by self-confessed murderer Vince Muscat, the bombs were made of stainless steel, a stainless steel casing, and looked very sophisticated and clearly foreign bought. Robert Ajus and Jamie Vella, in fact, have both been charged with supplying the bomb that killed Caruana Galizia. The police have, in fact, identified 3 visits Vella made to Albania, during which he is believed to have met with members of international criminal organizations. In fact, earlier this summer as well, the police discovered a stockpile of weapons, including automatic rifles and bomb detonators, on the seabed of Mijr al-Ferhan, Rabat.
It's, shocking stuff, but kind of believable. A few months ago, Lovin Malta had actually done an interview with a young Maltese drug dealer to kind of find out why he became a drug dealer and what happens as you go up the ranks. And he had actually opened up, you can find all of this on lovinmalta.com. He had actually opened up about what an elder drug dealer / human trafficker had told him about. According to the elder guy, around Gozo and some of the sea around Gozo, they've actually selected, him and his team have selected some shallows where they actually get waterproof material. They have weapons and drugs that they import from Sicily and Italy, and they have them hidden in these shallows around the Sea of Gozo, which is quite a crazy image when you think about it. What you're off in a beach in Gozo, you go a bit too far. Next thing you know, you've come across a cache of drugs. It's very, very shocking. But yeah, this is kind of the stories, the allegations, the claims we're hearing coming from Malta over the last few years, and that actually leads us directly into the next story. So if you remember Harry Potter. If you remember the Harry Potter series, the actress who played Professor Sprout from the Harry Potter series has actually opened up kind of about how she sees Malta, and it gives us kind of a view of how many people abroad have a perception of Malta in 2021. So the actress who played Professor Sprout, Miriam Margolyes, she held a conversation in the UK over the weekend that a Maltese PN official and sexual health activist, Mark Rappa, attended. Mark posted kind of an exchange they had with Miriam Margolyes after the discussion, and basically it came out that they approached Margolyes and said, in your book you mentioned Gozo, I'm from Malta, and the actress opened up saying, listen, I'm never going to forgive the government for what they did to Daphne Caruana Galizia. She called them murderers, and she kind of opened up about how she views Malta and the people running the island. Now let's be very clear, she hasn't been to Malta for a few years, but she has been hearing about stories coming from the international press as well as the local press. So I'm not surprised to see that she has such a dim view of the island.
Yeah, I mean, whether or not the way she described the government is justifiable, whether it could have been more nuanced, ultimately it does reflect sentiment held by a lot of people, many of whom might not necessarily read the news every day, the international news every day, but people did hear about that, did hear about the murder, did hear about the fallout from it. So at the end of the day, it's what we can expect given the headlines that have been coming out of this country for the last 4 years now. Our next story is about the police officers, the Maltese police officers, who could be set to be able to sport tattoos and beards after Home Affairs Minister Byron Camilleri hinted at a major change to the controversial rules. As things stand, all members of the police force are not allowed to show tattoos or sport beards, much to the disapproval of the Police Officers Union, which has even called industrial actions over the issue. Writing on Facebook earlier this morning, Home Affairs Minister Byron Camilleri said that, quote, as part of the strategic transformation of the police force, we are going to make a positive change that reflects a more modern and inclusive force that is more representative of society. The minister said that the country could not afford to lose any more talent because people had tattoos or facial hair. Sources who spoke to Lovin Malta confirmed that the likelihood was that the rules would be changed soon, though they did point out that there were still some pending issues regarding offensive tattoos and other types of issues. Back in 2019, a Malta police force public poll that asked the public about this very question found that 80% of respondents said they were in favor of tattoos and facial hair. What do you think?
I think this is a step in the right direction, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head when you said, the minister said he's doing this so he doesn't lose any more talent. Okay. And I think this is really, really important to keep in mind. What's the point in having someone who wants to be a great police officer in Malta, do good work, and then he doesn't take the job because he has a tattoo or wants to grow a beard or a mustache? I think those are very, very small reasons for us to lose a proper police officer. I know Camilleri has been making moves to modernize the corps since he was elected, so this is really great to see. And I think more important than anything else, it's just good to see high-ranking authorities, even the minister, listening to the lower ranks, the grunts as it were, to hear kind of what they want and finding ways to implement it while staying true to the core's calling. That brings us to the end of the first half of today's episode. We're going to cut to a quick video from our Europay series, and when we're back, we're going to have Volt Malta's Cassandra Mallia.
The Taliban's rapid takeover of Afghanistan has brought renewed attention on a topic the EU has so far failed to get a grip of: the migration of asylum seekers. Asylum seeking is a complex issue with many facets that need to be weighed together. The safety of people seeking international protection and the concerns of border countries like Malta, Italy, Spain and many others, who are oftentimes left isolated during this continued crisis. The Arab Spring and the Syrian civil war in 2015 saw massive movement across the Mediterranean. And while numbers have certainly decreased since then, many still die while making their way to safety on European shores. The European Parliament and the EU are doing their best to help, with a €9.88 billion Asylum, Integration and Migration Fund, which has now been boosted because of the situation in Afghanistan. It looks to manage migration flows, ease integration of third country nationals, improve border management, and contribute to the fight against irregular migration. At Parliament's request, the money should also serve to push member states to share responsibility for hosting refugees and asylum seekers more fairly across the EU, something which has been lacking despite calls for solidarity. The fund will also contribute to a common, harmonized visa policy, while also introducing protective measures to help vulnerable people arriving in Europe, in particular unaccompanied children. These are all initiatives that look to balance the major concerns while helping countries like Malta. The Afghan crisis has spurred Parliament to act quickly. Beyond supporting neighbouring countries to help create humanitarian corridors, it is also calling for a special visa programme for Afghan women who are seeking protection from the Taliban regime. However, Parliament made it clear that this cannot replace a fully fledged European asylum and migration policy, which focuses on resettling those most at risk and most vulnerable. It's clear that people need our help, and border countries need all the assistance they can get. The time to come together is now.
Welcome back. We're here with Cassandra Mallia, general election candidate for Volt Malta. So first of all, thank you very much for accepting our invitation. So you recently made the announcement and said, you told your friends and family you were going to run for the general election. So let's start off from here. I mean, a bit about your background and what made you want to put a step forward and actually take this step.
Yeah, so politics has always been an intrigue of mine. So it's always been something that has loomed over my mind. I never felt it was the right time at any point. This year, after COVID and the global situations that were kind of building up together, I felt like it was time to start being more active. And this is the best way I feel that I can do that. My general background is always here in Malta, just the usual going through primary, secondary and university, and following computer science and some philosophy as well on the side. So I have a bit of a variety there, a bit of versatility with IT and also kind of debate. I've also had a very big passion for Europe and the European setting, so we're here now.
Okay, and so most candidates, will have a platform. I suppose your choice of Volt already speaks a bit about what your personal platform will be. But how would you describe, your personal platform as, what you would want to achieve as an MP?
Yes. So Volt, very different than our other parties. I feel like there's a bit of a modern approach to it. There's that European element. It is a pan-European party at the end of the day. We have many other chapters in various other countries in the EU. So I felt like that was one of the major draws, that today the issues that we're facing are far greater than anything we can deal as our small nation, and I feel like working together on a more global sphere would be a better approach. So that's part of the reason why Volt was my choice. Also, the fact that they are that as a platform, it is very progressive, it's very forward-thinking. There's a lot of policies that I'm very in favor of when it comes to the policies themselves and the way we intend to implement them. So I feel like there's a bit of a change that it drew me in.
Okay. You mentioned the other chapters of is there a lot of communication with what's happening in other countries? Do you coordinate?
So there is communication, but each chapter on a national level we operate depending on what is necessary for our country. So we are a party for Malta. So what we do is directed heavily for Malta. All we really have is effectively we have a complete mandate for the entire Europa group that everybody follows effectively, but it's something that is all to the benefit of all of us and easy to access on our website. So but it's primarily, it's just more of communication and getting to know what the other countries are going through. We had our General Assembly yesterday and the day before in Portugal, and we elected our new European board, our internal board. So there is a lot of communication, but when it comes to what we do here, we take what we think is necessary for the country and we follow that.
Okay.
So.
And what would you say are the Volt's main priorities for Malta coming into this election?
So coming in effectively, our main things are democracy, transparency and innovation. That's our main 3 bullet points, and there are many others and those can be divided heavily, but then the other main thing is sustainability and climate. We're a green party at the end of the day. In the European Parliament, our parliamentary members are with the Greens. So we are heavily concerned with the environment at the moment, but primarily it is the democratic system and as much as possible trying to garner more trust in the democratic system. We operate democratically internally, so we want it to be as everywhere in our society as possible. And the element of transparency, because the corruption is not something we enjoy and we would like to fight that as much as possible. Then the technology aspect.
So obviously it's no secret that parties in Malta don't tend to fare very well. For example, we've had AD and then they've never gotten elected, despite the fact that they have at least some some idea of the system, maybe they're kind of more seasoned. What makes you, can Volt be elected? What makes you think that you can, or what does the party have to do in your mind
Well,
to get elected?
I would say we can. There's always, the possibility is always there. At the end of the day, if we are, I mean, I trust the democratic system, and if the people decide that they want to give us a chance, it's there. The possibility is there. So it's hard. It's hard. The third parties have not had a good track record, but I feel like there's a bit of a change, kind of I can see, and there has been a general change of how people are looking at politics lately. The change of trust in government and the way we do politics as well, and the way the parties are formed. I think Volt is very different, which is what I think gives it its chance in our sphere here in Malta, since we have more of a new approach to it. Let's put it that way.
So you think there is a
I think so.
possibility of...
I think so. I would say yes.
You're also the first trans woman to contest a general election in Malta. How does that make you feel, and kind of what would you like it to represent going forward?
I feel, for me personally, my identity is something, it's mine, it's a personal thing that it influences my biases, so it's something that I take into consideration in everything I do. But it's, in a certain aspect, it's separate from my policies. So I kind of, my view towards politics is I focus on the policies. So when it comes to what I intend to do here in the political sphere is effectively advocate for the policies I believe will do good for this country and for people in general. Though since the issues and when it comes to progressiveness, something that Malta has gone very forward on it, but it's something that is a global issue. I feel like I hope that in the process of advocating for policies and being public and open about these sort of things, I hope that other people who feel in some way or form are different or shy to kind of approach society might get that sort of boost to try and think that identity is something that it should be and is accepted by all, and it shouldn't stop you from being who you are in society. So that's kind of...
Definitely. And have you found that it's been a problem when meeting with people? I suppose like does the Maltese mentality?
So far, I'm a private person, but so far there haven't been any outward issues that I've seen. So which I feel it shows how Malta has progressed. I'm sure there are some stigmas here and there and some odd word here or there, but. I think on a whole, it hasn't been something that has affected me. So,
your message to the electorate going into the election, if we get an announcement?
If we do, I would tell everyone that it's important to participate in politics. Politics is the way we, as individuals, can participate in the society that we live in today. Things seem dire on a global scale, but I think there's a lot of hope and there's a lot of possibility for change, and we just have to kind of put our heads together, think of what we need to do, think of the world we want to live in, and put that into practice by voting, by participating in politics, being active, and just being kind to everyone in our society.
It seems simple enough. Well, on that note, that's it from us. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for following. Good night and have an evening full of love.